Testing everyone. Works great. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our California Board of Accountancy's Enforcement Advisory Committee meeting. Today is May 1st. Happy May 1st, everybody. My name is Kathy Johnson, and I am the president of the EAC, and just wanted to make sure that we welcome you. And before we get into the meeting, we'd also like to welcome a new member to the committee. And that new member is Juan Iega. I'm sorry, Julio. I said Juan. I was working on the last name and I messed up the first name. And so now we're going to start that over again. It's Julio and Iega. All right. Okay. Halfway there. Anyway. Thank you and welcome to the committee. Yes. So the CBA has provided the opportunity for the public to participate via WebEx platform. When we take public comments, we will begin by taking public comments from those individuals attending the meeting at the California Board of Accountancy's meeting here. We're meeting at the Marriott in Burbank. And then we will ask the moderator to open up the lines for any public comments for people logging in. And once that happens, you will have up to 5 minutes for public comments. With that being said, I'd now like to turn the meeting over to Ms. Whiffley to establish a quorum.
Jennifer Benjamin. Present. Jeff DeLyser.
Here.
Alan Gittleson.
Here.
Julio Arajita. Kathy Johnson.
Here.
Laura Ross. Jason Russell. Michael Williams.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Whiffley. Okay, so the CBA's mission is to protect consumers by ensuring only qualified licensees practice public accountancy in accordance with established professional standards. This mission is derived from the statutory requirement that protection of the public shall be the highest priority for the California Board of Accountancy in exercising its licensing, regulatory, and disciplinary functions. Whenever the protection of the public is inconsistent with other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public shall be paramount. And now we're going to go ahead and follow the agenda, starting with asking the public if there are any public comments not on the agenda. And we'll start off by saying, do we have any members of the public present here in the meeting? And we do not. So moderator, could you check with anybody online?
There are no participants online at the moment.
Thank you. So now we'll start with approval of the minutes of the December 5th, 2024 meeting of the Enforcement Advisory Committee. I hesitated on that because it's been a while since we met. We did not meet in February. But let's start with approval of the minutes for December 5th.
I move for approval.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members? Seeing none and hearing none, I will now open it up for public comment. As there are no public members present, moderator, is it still the case that there are no public members online?
Still no public members online.
Thank you very much. Now we'll ask Ms. Whiffley to call for the vote.
Jennifer Benjamin,
Abstain.
Jeff DeLyser,
Yes.
Alan Gittleson,
Yes.
Julio Irahita, Kathy Johnson,
Approved.
Laura Ross,
Abstain.
Jason Russell, Michael Williams.
Approved.
Passes.
Thank you, Ms. Whiffley. So the second item B under 2B on the agenda is the discussion and possible adoption of the proposed 2026 Enforcement Advisory Committee meeting dates. Has everyone had an opportunity to take a look at those? I'll give you just a minute or two. Okay. So can we go ahead and get a motion to approve the meeting dates for the proposed 2026 agenda? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members? Hearing none. Just confirming there are no public members or on the phone, moderator?
Still true.
Thank you very much. With that being said, we will turn it over to Ms. Whiffley. Please take a roll.
Jennifer Benjamin,
Here.
Approved.
Approved.
Jeff DeLyser,
Approved.
Alan Gittleson,
Approve.
Julio Irahita, Kathy Johnson,
Approved.
Laura Ross, Jason Russell, Michael Williams.
Approved.
And it passes.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now it's time for, in our agenda, to hear the report of the California Board of Accountancy's liaison, Ms. Nancy Corrigan.
Thank you. And you already have me all confused because green is usually go and red is stopped. So that's why I said, how does this work? Different than at the board meeting. So I'm Nancy Corrigan. I am delighted to be here. What's really nice is there are quite a few, and I even see Manny back there, familiar faces to me. And, you know, I served on this committee for some time before I got, you know, pulled up to the board. And before that, I was on the other two advisory committees. And so I have served with some of you in those other capacities. So it's nice to see you again and to meet some new faces. So Chair Johnson and members, thank you for having me here today. I'll be reporting on our January 23rd and March 20th meetings. And on behalf of my fellow board members, I want to thank you for your volunteerism, the time you put in, everything you do, including CBA staff who are phenomenal as well, really helps the board to do their job as well. So the EAC helps staff do their job, and all of you help board members do our job as well. You're very much appreciated. So these are just highlights. I refer you to the archived meetings to really get full details on everything. So starting with January 23rd, you know, each year, board leadership, meaning board officers and staff management have a roundtable session, and they talk about what are the priorities for the next year. So our president too reported on those at that meeting. And so these are the top priorities, and you can see we've been busy and we're going to continue to be busy all year. So even though we've been having one-day meetings, they've been pretty full. So advancing the legislative proposal approved by the CPA to modernize mobility and enhance CPA licensure requirements. We'll go over that more a little bit later. Changes to continuing education requirements. I'll also expand on that a little bit later. Continuing our focus on outreach and expanding our reach and our message. And these are initiatives to increase the awareness of the CPA profession, the benefits of being a CPA, and providing resources and support for aspiring accountants and also current licensed professionals as well. So we're really trying to do that and delve deeper and lower into the educational layers and that sort of thing to help with this whole pipeline situation. The other thing is continuing business modernization project. We know that for many years, everything has been fairly antiquated, very tough on our staff to kind of have to piecemeal the different modules, whether they be automated or not. So a new online examination application, unifying current online systems, that'll be really an accomplishment, right? And transitioning an enforcement case management system. Wonderful. So that would be great. So you can see that we've been busy and have a lot more to go. We discussed policy aspects for developing regulatory language to implement the CBA's legislative proposal if the bill is signed into law. So that's transitioning to an open mobility framework, if you will, or a CPA equals CPA. So to remove the substantial equivalency requirement from the regulation and make it smoother, where we no longer have to really look at a state's substantial equivalency. What we have to look at is its consumer protection initiatives or protocols. So that sounds easy. It sounds like, wow, we can just let everybody in, right? No. We have guardrails, and if we find that a jurisdiction is not enhancing and really protecting, consumers, they can be prevented from just automatically coming in, and they'll have to jump through some other hoops to do so. So we're trying to make it flow, yet have guardrails in place. So that made me happy, was a concern of mine, definitely. So these enhancements would really move the CBA to like a minimum requirement of a bachelor's degree with an accounting concentration. We're going to focus, rather than on semester units, we're going to focus on the degree. For years and years, we've all heard about 150, that requirement, for a very, very long time. Well, we want the educators to determine that requirement. This person has achieved the bachelor's in accordance with all the requirements, and we're going to rely on that and make transcript review even seamless. So it's kind of an express way for transcript review. So as a part of that, we also took a look at the minimum units and the subject areas for this bachelor's requirement. We have 24 units in accounting subjects, 24 in business subjects, and 3 in ethics. So the legislative proposal includes setting the experience requirement to 2 years, authorizing us to accept a master's degree and allowing that extra to count, the master's to count for one of those 2 years. So that's kind of another pathway. And we want to write into there that we may provide experience credit for specific certification or training programs. We're going to be looking at that later. What programs are out there? We know that there are some certifications, and could they possibly qualify? So we're really trying to help the pipeline issue by everything that we can do, and yet the standards, the quality has to remain very, very high. So at the March 20th, our most recent meeting, some of the highlights. So we adopted meeting dates for next year, just as you all did for your committee. And at that meeting, staff provided public comments on a rulemaking proposal that had to do with firms providing attest services when the ownership is comprised solely of CPAs who have only the general accounting experience. So you can have CPAs that have general experience requirement, and yet they've got a fleet of attest CPAs, under their roof. And so we reviewed those public comments, the staff's prepared responses, and we directed them to move forward with the rulemaking file and submit it to the Office of Administrative Law. So we did that as well. We discussed changes to the retired status license. There was a requirement before that in addition to everything else, the retiree or the one seeking that status had to also have 5 years in California to qualify. And that kind of limited some that seemed to already be qualified to retire. So why are we making it any tougher on them? So we're removing that requirement as long as the other criteria are met. We just directed staff to move forward with future regulatory changes regarding the continuing education requirement, the subject areas. So we're going to we want to allow the following categories to be non-technical continuing education. So I have a little list I'll read to you. So sexual harassment prevention, workplace violence prevention, workplace stress management, employee wellness, and world languages. So those would be allowed as non-technical where they have not been allowed, to this point. Now we're going to remove, we're proposing, all this has to happen. So when I say we're doing it, it all has, California law, right? Okay. So we're going to remove the restriction on foreign language education, right? As non-technical, meaning it would become technical, right? So we're going to remove that and give recognition to learning a world language. And it supports diversity, equity, and inclusion along with professional competency. So we viewed it that way. That seems like in this smaller world, where everything's evolving the way it is, that would be really important and very beneficial to do that. Also renaming specialized industry and industry accounting subject areas to specialized industry knowledge. So it's more encompassing. So that would be just kind of a definitional or a renaming. Permitting the excess fraud courses. So we all know about the 4 hours with our renewal. And many times we're taking an 8-hour class. We're going, oh, that's a bummer. I only need 4, right? Well, now the extra 4 will go toward the A&A requirement. So that seems to make, and really it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? So you don't have to worry anymore about, I only need 4. I can take the 8 and I don't lose credit for those 4. So I think that's great. Now this one might surprise you just a little bit, but you have to follow it and understand it, right? So we want to remove the 24-hour governmental auditing CE requirement while still requiring those licensees to get their 4 hours of fraud in, right? Now, does that mean suddenly these GAGAS people that do all the governmental audits and single audits and all that stuff don't have to meet? Oh, no. They have to meet GAGAS. They have to meet Yellow Book. It's just that on the renewal form, it's pretty confusing because we talk about just regular auditing of non-governmental, and then we hit them with that, and it almost makes it seem like, well, they're supposed to do both, and it isn't really meant that way. So it's kind of some clarifying language more than anything, but making it very clear that those auditors still must have the 4 hours of fraud. So these policy discussions will continue. What we're focusing on is actually having a rulemaking package no later than this November. So that's a lot, but we're hoping to. So you probably all have heard about Assembly Bill 1175, introduced by Assembly Member Jackie Irwin on February 21st. And it contains the licensing enhancements and the modernizing mobility. A lot of things that we just discussed are encompassed in that Assembly bill. And we've had a lot of publications going out, a lot of discussion, so make sure you're familiar. It should really help with everything that we're experiencing as a profession. So our next meeting will be in the CBA office on May 15th, coming up very quickly. And so I just encourage you again to listen to the webcasts and hear more detail and whatever it is that I may not have presented in my highlights that you might be interested in. With that, I turn it back to you, Chair Johnson.
Thank you, Ms. Corrigan. Just a couple of comments myself. First of all, I love the fact that I love the focus on the degree versus the number of hours. Being an adjunct professor myself, I think that's a really big positive in some of the changes that we're making. And then also kind of start the foreign language, making that the change in the classification of the foreign language. I think that would encourage more people to take and learn foreign languages. And being in forensic accounting and our client base accounting period, our client bases are very diverse. And so I think that's a positive as well. I'd like to open it up for any additional questions or comments from members. None? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to go ahead and thank Ms. Corrigan for a report. Now I'll go ahead and open it up for any public comment. And I don't believe any public members have attended, come in to the meeting where we are stationed today. So I turn it over to the moderator to see if there has been any members or any members of the public to come in online.
There are currently no members on WebEx.
Thank you very much. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to go ahead and move to item number 4 on the agenda. And this will be a report by our Enforcement Chief, Ms. Carrie O'Connor.
Thank you. The activity report before members today is for the first 9 months of fiscal year 2024-25. The CBA received nearly 3,800 complaints, and the graph on the bottom of page 1 provides a comparison of the total complaints received as of the same reporting period for the prior 2 fiscal years. Moving on to page 2, we have included information on the top 3 complaint types, with complaints regarding unlicensed activity being the most common type. Moving on to page 3, which is the investigations and investigations pending section. At the end of the first 9 months of the fiscal year, staff closed over 4,800 cases, with 99% of those cases being closed within 1 year. And the average days to close investigations was at 92 days. Enforcement had just under 700 cases in its pending investigations inventory. And there was 1 pending case over 24 months, which was still being actively investigated at that time. Moving on to page 4, which is the discipline-related information. Looking first at the AG referrals, the CBA referred 26 matters to the AG office and filed 28 pleadings. The CBA had 32 matters pending at the AG's office. And lastly, the CBA has taken action on 20 final disciplinary orders. Page 5 covers our citations and fines data. The CBA issued just over 1,600 citations for this time period. 94% of those citations were due to failing to comply with the 20 and 12 continuing education requirement. We had received 197 citation fine appeals, and we have withdrawn or modified just a little over 100 citations based on those appeals. And in most cases, the reason why we would withdraw the citations due to those appeals is that the licensee provided new mitigating evidence or complied with the issue that resulted in the citation. So we do withdraw the citation. Page 6 covers our unlicensed activity data. The CBA has received just over 1,700 complaints regarding unlicensed activity, and we closed over 2,000 investigations for the first 9 months of the fiscal year regarding unlicensed activity. The last page and the final area of the report that I'll highlight is probation monitoring. As of March 31st, we had 52 licensees on probation, with 1 new probationer since the last report. We had identified 20 probation violations, with the majority being failure to submit the written quarterly reports. At this time, I'd like to turn the discussion over to Chair Johnson and would be happy to answer any questions members may have.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connor. We'd like to go ahead and open it up for any questions or comments from members. Seeing none, I would like to go ahead and open up questions or comments to any members of the public. There have been no new members of the public that have come into the meeting room. So we'd like to go ahead and check with the moderator to see if any public members have joined us online.
There are no members of the public online.
Thank you very much. And so now we will continue with Ms. O'Connor's second report.
Thank you. This will be item 4B, which is the informational overview regarding supervised practice for probationers. So the purpose of this agenda item is to provide members with an overview of how supervised practice is used as a term for probation. There's no action needed for this item, but we welcome any feedback for consideration that to improve the supervised practice process and forms that we'll discuss later in this item. So just a little bit of background. Supervised practice is an optional condition of probation that may be included in stipulated settlements, proposed decisions, or when a petition for reinstatement of a license is granted. This condition is an effective tool when a licensee is allowed to perform the types of services that resulted in discipline, and it has been increasingly used for individuals placed on probation following the board's decision to reinstate a license. When this condition is included in a disciplinary order, probationers must submit a plan of practice within 30 days of the probation start date. For reference, the plan can be found as attachment 1 to the item. This plan outlines a licensee's practice areas and identifies a proposed practice monitor who is a qualified CPA responsible for evaluating their work and submitting quarterly reports to the CBA. The practice monitor must meet strict criteria that our probation unit reviews, and this includes they must hold a license in good standing, they must possess expertise in the probationer's practice areas, and they must maintain an independent professional relationship. This plan must be approved by the CBA, and if the plan is not approved, then the probationer must submit a revised plan, and this does happen from time to time. We do deny the practice monitor. Once the plan is approved, the practice monitor reviews samples of the probationer's work and documents their findings in quarterly reports to the CBA. These reports list the engagements reviewed, highlight compliance with professional standards, and identify any deficiencies or concerns with the probationer's work. CBA staff review these reports and may request the engagements identified by the practice monitor as problem areas for further examination by an investigative CPA, or even the Enforcement Advisory Committee members. When negotiating a stipulated settlement, staff structure this term to require the supervision to occur in a specific practice area and include other factors such as the frequency and number of engagements to be reviewed during each reporting period, and whether these reviews should occur pre-issuance or post-issuance. Also, when including the supervised practice term as a condition for the reinstatement of a license, the CBA will consider adding clarifying information to the term, such as targeting a specific practice area. This will ensure that the licensee and practice monitor clearly understand the expectations of the term and that the focus of the supervision addresses the potential consumer risk. So we presented this item at the March CBA meeting, and following a discussion on the item, we received several great suggestions to improve the plan of practice. So some of the changes that were made as a result of the discussion at the March 2025 meeting was we added a statement for the practice monitor to also affirm that there is no personal or professional relationship with the probationer. We added a statement notifying both parties that the probationer shall pay for all costs associated with the practice monitoring. And we added a statement acknowledging the probationer's responsibility to take steps to ensure confidentiality with the information that is provided to the practice monitor. That concludes my presentation, and I would be happy to turn the discussion back over to Chair Johnson and answer any questions members may have or any suggestions they have to enhance our supervised practice process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connor. Go ahead and start. I think those are really good suggestions in terms of getting affirmations instead of just making assumptions, affirmations regarding relationships of the practice monitor. That's really good. Are there any comments from our other members?
Just a question. Approximately how many do you have in this program without having a true practice monitor?
Yeah, we have 7 licensees currently with this supervised practice term.
I'll follow up on that question, Jeffrey. Ms. O'Connor, has there been like the comments relating to that process from people who've gone through it? Do we get feedback from those members who have gone through the practice monitoring?
Typically, we don't get specific feedback
Okay.
on the practice monitoring. No.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Are there any additional questions from members?
Just one quick one. Is the compliance with, they're doing quarterly reports, right? With that, is the
Correct.
compliance pretty good on that of the 7 people who are out there?
Yes, I would say that they are in compliance, and if they're not, then we would have, potentially open up an investigation and review the work more in depth.
Yeah, I was just wondering
Yeah.
if we have a compliance problem, what's the next step on what do we do with these people?
Yeah.
So,
Well, actually, that is, if they don't comply, then. Yeah.
So if they,
that could be dangerous.
so to answer your question, if they don't comply, then we could file a petition to revoke probation and carry out the disciplinary order, which could be revocation of the license.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments from members? Hearing no additional comments, we'd like to open it up to the public. Seeing that no additional public members have joined our current location, I'd like to ask the moderator, has there any additional public members join the online call?
There are no members of the public online.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you, Ms. O'Connor, for that report. Now we're moving to item 5 on the agenda, and this is where we will just start closing the session. We will ask Enforcement Advisory Committee members to review files, and we will move into closed hearing. So at this time, I'd like to adjourn the meeting.